What is going on, everybody, and welcome back into Body Studios. Now, today in the studio, we're going to be working on a general crafting video. Now, my wife, Mama Bear, has requested that I create a one sign for my daughter's first birthday. Now, this is going to be kind of one of those signs that go in like the centerpiece of a table. And it's more so just like around the foods or something like that. And it's just supposed to be kind of a nice centerpiece for the decor, as it were, for the birthday. All you chicks and mama bears out there, you kind of get where I'm going with that. But this is going to be a nice, fun project. We're going to start off this project by base coating these outside in a general light brown color. And if I need to use some craft paints to brown these out, if I don't have the correct color, then I'll do so. I'm at least going to base coat them in some kind of paint. And then after that, we'll start rolling into some vibrant colors. These are going to be cupcake themed. Cupcakes? Ice cream? Ice cream. So each one will have its own individual color theme, but they'll all kind of look like they're one piece that you bought from somewhere. Now, my wife purchased these from a Hobby Lobby, and of course, they came with a default kind of like textured chalk base coat kind of prime on it. It feels very much like a gesso layer. But it is so chalky that it's coming off on my fingers. So I did wash these very thoroughly with a sponge, and we're going to base coat them ourselves so that way we can get a little bit of a satin finish before we go in with some nice acrylic crafting paints and kind of glam these out before I apply a clear coat to them. This is just going to be a very fun video. So let's go ahead and step outside in the yard. Let's go ahead and get these base coated in a paint, and then we'll roll into some crafting paints as well. Let's get to it, guys. All right, guys, so we're outside now, and I'm about to start base coating these letters for my daughter's first birthday. So obviously we have a O, we have an N, and we have an E, and they're all going to look like little cupcakes. Now, the overall topping will be different colors, so we want to make them kind of like an opaque, paled out, like chalky type of pink, maybe purple, and a blue. But the actual cone part of it, the bottom of it, is going to be a brown with kind of like a striped effect. Now, I'll get to that here a little bit inside in the indoor studio when I'm actually detail painting it. Now, I asked my wife. She gave me full freedom to do whatever I want artistically with these bad boys. And we're just going to kind of make them very cutesy, very colorful, like the images that she sent to me. Now, this is what they're supposed to look like right here. So these are some of the images that people have made before. I'm just going to have fun and run with it. I do want to incorporate some goals into the actual cone part of it itself. I don't think I'm going to put any glitter on it as of right now. We're just going to do paints, but we're just going to try to make it very vibrant and very fun. Now, I have some cheapo paint, not specific brands. It's just junky paint that I've had in the studio for a very long time. And all I'm looking for is just to get it just generally base coated before I actually start working with, crafting acrylics on top of that. So as we kind of zoom in here before I start painting these out, as you can see, so we have them the way they're supposed to be, laid out like this. Now, actually, I have that upside down because that's the flat side. So that would actually be like that, right? So just be aware that they both have their bottoms, right? But the bottoms are going to be what I want to be kind of beiged out. And halfway up on each one is going to be where the icing begins. It may have like a ripply like the texture, and then it will go up to the top. But because I'm going to paint those on the top with craft paint anyways of different vibrant colors, it doesn't really matter if I get any paint on top of these because I'm going to paint them anyways. So what we're going to do is I want these bottom pieces to be fully coated in spray paint, so that way the whole bottom is encapsulated in that brown. So we're going to go ahead and flip these over. So as you can see, we have our hanging holes on, they're pre-drilled. That's really nice. So at least Hobby Lobby has that going for them. We have them laid out, so now I can go ahead and base coat the tops of all of these. I don't really care about getting a whole lot of paint down here unless it's just kind of overspray or if I feel like I have a lot of paint. But it's kind of like a half-empty can of just some junky crap paint. And we're just going to go ahead and get these base coated here. We'll give them about 24 hours to dry, and then we'll take them into the indoor studio and actually get them detailed out to the glamorous look, like cutesy look that my wife is looking for. See, here's the two first letters already base coated, and then here's your white lettering. So we're just kind of really just applying a nice tone to it so that way we can get some colors built up on it easily.
So here they are kind of base coated. You can see they're just a nice light color of tan beige. Looking pretty good. We'll give this a little time to dry, and then we'll start working inside dressing these bad boys up for my daughter's first birthday. Super cool.
24 hours later.
Alrighty guys, so as we zoom in here to the workstation, you can see I got 2 of the 3 letters already base coated out with a raw sienna. Now this raw sienna looks really good on the base coat itself, and I do put about 2 or 3 layers of that on there just to get a really good coverage over that existing base coat of spray paint. Now, just be aware that you just got to remember which side is going up. Just remember that you have the actual hanging holes on the back side on the upper portion of those letters. So we're going to actually be working with the N here, and we're going to be using raw sienna to base coat this. Now, of course, again, get yourself oriented here. Now, I chose the N specifically because it's just oddly shaped, and I just felt like it would just be a better showcase of the overall painting process, just because I have to go around a lot of corners and things like that. Now, we're going to be going in with our raw sienna, as we were before, but we're also going to be using a yellow ochre. So that ochre is going to be a very lighter color compared to the raw sienna, and it's going to brighten the overall comb quite a bit before we actually brown it out a little bit with some burnt umber. Now, as you can see, I am using my handy dandy little paper bowl here. This is just great for just simple projects like this, and this is when I get done with it, I can just throw it away or continue using the overall bowl for other projects. It's just an easy little palette when I'm only working with just a small variety of colors. So we're going to begin by just giving this a heavy coat of raw sienna here, and we're going to go about halfway up, a little bit more than halfway up the overall lettering. Now we're going to be very thick with this, and I'm going to try to make sure that my brush strokes are going in the general direction of the lettering, and then I can kind of refine that in later layers as I build up the layers and the thickness that I need to get a really good coverage over that existing base coat. In all reality, you really don't have to base coat it unless you really want to. I just really wanted to have a nice protective base coat layer over that existing, like, kind of a primed powder type of paint that they had on the lettering as default. And I just wanted to have a little bit of extra protection underneath this, so that way I don't get any chipping or scraping or paint pulling off later on in the processes. Or if I were to sell this after the birthday, just because we're using it mainly just one time, then I could do so, and it would just be a really nice piece of art for the next person to use in their kid's one birthday. Making sure to get the bottoms and the sides very, very thoroughly covered here. And now the top of it, where you're kind of coming up towards the top and it goes into the white base coat, it really doesn't matter what kind of line that is. You're going to refine that process later on when you put the, I keep wanting to say icing. It's not icing, it's actually ice cream drips on there. This is probably the second base coat in total, and you can see it really does thicken it out quite a bit. Look at the shine on that wet paint. It looks really good, especially when you kind of layer it on very thickly. I'm very, very mindful about my brush strokes here, and I'm also going to try to very much so not to let it pull and collect at the hard edges of the lettering, where the 90 degrees are before it goes down the sides and onto the back. I don't want to get any kind of caking and pulling there, and when you're working with a large amount of paint, I'm really globbing the paint on here. It's just very easy to get large pools of collection on those edges when you're working on the sides and on the surface. And you just need to make sure that your paint strokes are just good enough and smooth enough to where it's really not noticeable. This is after the second layer here. Now, as you can see, I actually just need one more, just so that I don't have to worry about these lighter colors showing through this raw sienna base. So here it is after the third base coat, and it was just enough. We didn't use a whole lot of paint to do this, but you could definitely burn through some paint if you're making a lot of letters in this fashion. Now we're going to roll in with some yellow ochre. Yellow ochre is one of my favorite colors to craft with, not just craft, but paint in general. And we're going to kind of do like a side-by-side dry brushing motion just with the sides of the brush. And we're just going to be very light, and we're going to kind of go on and give it a little bit of a texture here. Now, of course, when this dries up, a little bit of this texture will kind of disappear into the existing kind of like cone that we're creating here. But it's just very fun, very nice to give it a little bit of texture and a little bit of detail, because it is generally like a simple craft overall. And if you wanted to go with just solid, simple colors, you could do that. You can do the entire project with probably just 3 or 4 colors, really. You could probably just get a raw sienna and then your 3 or 4 bright colors for the ice cream topping. However, I wanted to make it a little bit more intricate than just your basic tutorial or project. We're going to go in with that burnt umber again, and this is going to give it a little bit of a dark tinge towards the very bottom of the lettering. Now, I'm not going to take that dark color all the way up, but I'm just doing a little bit of a dry brush effect. So I'm taking a lot of the paint on my brush. I'm kind of applying it to the bottom, very edges of those lettering. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a lot of water on my brush after it dries for maybe like 30 seconds to a minute. And then I'll just give it a nice wash of water on the dark brown, and it will kind of blend it out a little bit. But some of those marks that you had left previously, because you let it dry for a few seconds, will remain behind, and it gives it a nice, really kind of like a wood effect, like a nice dark tinged wood, kind of like a not decayed, but just an aged look. We're gonna go over that with a little bit of that, more of that yellow ochre, and it kind of just details it out a little bit. You want a little bit of that paint to be visible. Now here it is. I'm going to go ahead and apply a little bit of water before we go into the next stage here of this process, but I will let this dry overnight before we get into the actual ice cream dripping from the top. Looking pretty good, you guys. I had a little paint pooling there. I needed to fix that, and there's no problem with going back and fixing areas that you may have messed up. Looking pretty good, right? All right, as I stated before, I'm going to be using this nice old-fashioned ruler here, and we're just going to lightly apply the lines here. Now, because we lined up the lettering along the edge of my cutting mat here, they are all the same height and level. So that means instead of using a stencil or kind of struggling over the lines, I'm just going to use the actual ruler itself to gauge the thickness of these lines. Actually, the hardest part about these lines is just getting a nice clean edge on them. Now, if you're really OCD, like I tend to be at times, and you really want a clean edge, you're going to have to use some kind of like taped off thing. So you can use some like transfer paper or some like edged vinyl. Or even create like a professional stencil with the Cricut, which I've done in the past, but I just didn't feel like we needed to do all that with this type of project when we're just going to do like a one and done type of thing. I had cut out with an X-Acto knife just the kind of the shape of the lines with this thicker grade of cardboard. Now this cardboard is great. It worked out very well, but as soon as I pull this up, you can see. Now it could have been that I applied the paint too thickly. Let's just say that. I will say that I'm never perfect, and I do have faults. But when I pull this up, you're going to see I get a lot of pulling on the edges. See how that kind of cakes up and pulls? Because that paint is getting pushed under the edges of the cardboard. And I really didn't like how that looked overall. I think it looked kind of junky and it looked kind of chaotic. And we're going to have to do something to refine and fix that in a moment. So you can still see I'm using the same cardboard here because I needed to stay consistent with the overall thickness of these, at least for this one. And then on the next one, I decided to change up my stencil. So of course I'm going to thicken out these lines just a little bit just by hand, and then that also will kind of limit the visibility of those imperfections on the actual cone hex type of or diamond type of texture there, or a pattern. So it takes a little bit of working, but we finally got that working there. So again, just remember, use whatever stencil you would like. Cut it out by hand, cut it out with a Cricut, and then use your ruler to gauge your lines, and then just have fun with it. If you're really OCD, then you're going to be chasing those lines a little bit to get them perfectly straight and perfectly symmetrical with paint on the actual canvas itself. But if you're kind of free and just want to have if you want it to look like you painted it, then all for the better. Now we're going to start to apply the layers of the ice cream here. Now this is the very fun part of the project here. If you're engaging kids in this type of project, this is what they're going to enjoy the most here. The most important thing here is just to make sure you don't leave too many paint strokes behind, but a few are okay. We're going to put that on very thickly, and we're going to be mixing just bright, vibrant colors with the titanium white. So just use a little bit of color, a lot of titanium white, and mix those up. And if it's not pale enough for you, just add more titanium white until you get that paleness you're looking for. As it dries, it will naturally darken at least a little bit. So just remember that your color may come out a little bit darker. So if you want it to be lighter, you need to add more titanium white. And of course, you can create more intense colors by adding yellows and a maple yellow and all sorts of different colors into that to intensify different ranges of colors. But we're just going to go with like kind of a paled out, very opaque light colors for this project. Again, these are just supposed to be kind of references from the original source material that my wife had sent me, and we want to make sure that they kind of follow the overall general design that she wanted, or what is it, happy wife, happy life? Yeah, no happy wife, no happy life. I'm just going to tell you that. But anyways, we want to make sure this project is very cool. That is the pink in already done. We're also going to mix up two other colors. My wife decided to go with a purple and a yellow. So we're going to mix up that. You'll see how much white I have applied to that. And I actually come in later on and I also do another layer of this with a little bit of a lighter purple even then. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and apply the purple here in a time-lapse fashion. Enjoy the video as I go ahead and apply the purple and the yellow to these awesome letters. All right, you guys, these things are looking absolutely phenomenal so far. And the next step of the process, because I really need to start knocking this project out, I really started to blast through these sessions here. And the segments of this video are going to fly by here. So as we kind of roll into the next segment here, I wanted to create a little bit of a drip edge along the bottoms of the ice cream. And to do that, so we did two things. One, the yellow is so paled out that and faint that I wanted to have it visible. So that means that we needed to use a pure titanium white with that. But when you're working over a brighter color like the pink or the purple, you need to add a little bit of that existing base coat color that you're using, the pink or the purple, into that mixture, even if it's just a drop. That way it doesn't look too bright against that existing ice cream drip. I later on in the process do come back in and I add some really heavy drips down the sides of the actual lettering with that titanium white, and I will show you later how vibrant they look. They just look out of place. But we'll get to that in a little bit. So as far as the actual sprinkles are concerned, we're going to go ahead and cut a stencil. Now, I created the stencil easily with Cricut, and I cut that out on a beautiful pearl cardstock. I actually went out to Michael's and purchased that cardstock specifically for this, and I thought the pearl not only would show up on the camera good, but also it would be a very good surface that the paint wouldn't really stick to heavily, because it's kind of like a little bit of a slick surface. Now, as far as the color selection for the sprinkles, I decided just to go with kind of like the best way I could describe it is like an traditional Easter-like color selection, right? So we have a light yellow, a light teal. We have that existing original pink color that we had used for the pink base coat. I have a beautiful lavender from Winsor & Newton Galleria paints. We also have a pale olive from Winsor & Newton. And these are just going to give it a nice subtle layer of sprinkles. Look how great those things look. And I will introduce a little bit of titanium white sprinkle here and there just to kind of give it a little bit of diversity. I don't apply very many of those, but I do here every so often. Look how great these actual sprinkles look. Looking pretty good, you guys. So now we're going to loop back around to the existing drips. Now earlier I mentioned that I applied a titanium white drip layer to the existing original line of ice cream that we had placed, and it was just too bright. Now for the yellow here, this titanium white looks absolutely phenomenal, but as you can see when I apply this to the pink or the purple, it's just way too bright. So what we need to do is I will come in later and I will apply just another layer of pink to this, just to kind of like lighten these up a little bit and then make them blend better with the existing purple and pink color. As you can see, we're really bringing those down in a very thick manner, very drippy, because I want to make sure we cover that kind of diamond cone lines that we had placed. I don't want those to be very visible through that paint. And this is almost the end of the project, guys. You can see a lot of lines there. I'm going to go ahead and fix those with a little bit of lighter colors, and then we'll be ready for some clear coats. All right, guys, so we're outside now. I'm going to go ahead and spray paint these with just a nice, thick clear coat. Now, usually what I'll do is I'll lay it down flat, where the predominant side is the flat side where all the sprinkles are at. I want to make sure that we have a good clear coat on that side. So I'll lay these down. I'll do one side at a time in a very thick, nice clear coat, and then we'll let it dry fully before we do the other side. So let's go ahead and get that done, guys, and I'll see you back in the studio in just a few moments. All right, look how glossy these things look. Now, these are amazing in every single way. And I really do think that me blending in the kind of like pale colors of the pink and the purple in with those existing layers of drip really did kind of bring it all together. Now, of course, you can put as many layers of clear coat on as you'd like. And in this video, I did not actually clear coat the back yet. But before I sell these on Etsy, after we get done using them for the single purpose of the birthday party, then I will clear coat the back as well. I'll probably put some of these stenciled sprinkles on the back side as well, but we'll just kind of keep it nice and simple. So if somebody wants to display it with kind of like the diamond shaped cone effect on the front, or if they want it to be kind of plain Jane on the back, then they can do that. Look how glossy that paint looks. It looks really good. Now, of course, those colors are beautifully vibrant, and almost the camera has issues picking up on it. It almost wants to change the saturation of those as I'm literally recording them right here outside.
24 hours later.
Now here we are back inside. Now I've already let these cure for about maybe 24 hours or so. They still have a little bit of smell to them, but they're ready to be used for the actual birthday party. As you can see here, my wife did an amazing job designing the overall sweets birthday theme. We had everything from pretzels to donuts to cupcakes, and my wife did an amazing job, so kudos to her. Hope you guys enjoyed the content, guys. I'll see you in the next awesome crafting video.